you are, puppy. You're all set. See ya.
Thanks. I remember what it felt like to be 10 years old and smack dab in the middle of summer vacation. Long days that you just hoped would never end. Boy, I sure do. But you know, if I want to just suck myself right back into that summer vacation feeling, well, I just make a summer vacation cookout. Cook everything out. Don't make it too elaborate, just shorts and sandals and a bunch of grown-ups and kids, a little chaos, a lot of laughter, and you know what? I'm talking tacos. But not the crispy U-shaped petrified shells filled with ground beef and sliced iceberg lettuce. No, I'm talking about a basket full of warm, soft corn tortillas and a variety of tasty fillings. Now, when you put on a taco fest like this in Mexico, you call it a taquisa. And if you're looking for a real crowd pleaser, especially if your crowd contains children, there's nothing better than a smoky, sweet, shredded pork picadillo.
Porca picadillo. That is my favorite.
Okay, then you can help make it. Come on around here. This is cubed pork, and we gotta simmer it until it's tender, so why don't you put some water on that? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna chop up some garlic, just rough chop, nothing fancy. This will give some beautiful flavoring to the broth of that pork as it cooks. Where'd you learn that Italian, Lainey? Okay, that'll go right in there. Oh, Mr. Pancho. Okay, put it on the fire over there and add a little bit of salt to it.
How did I get? Gotta add salt.
Now, what adds the smokiness to this picadillo is the chipotle chili, that smoke-dried jalapeno. These are canned in an adobo sauce. I'm just going to roughly chop that up and then put it right directly into the blender. Putting one in there because we got a lot of kids coming. If it was just for me, I'd put 2 or 3 of them in there. Now, also into the blender is going to go roasted tomatoes. You could use canned tomatoes for this, but I like the sweetness that roasting fresh tomatoes adds. These were roasted under a broiler for about 6 minutes per side, cooled off. They're blackened and blistered on the outside, and then peeled. Now, the last ingredient that's going to go into this mixture, which is going to flavor the picadillo, is roasted garlic. I've got 3 cloves that were roasted in their little papery husks over medium heat in a dry skillet and turned for about 15 minutes until they were completely soft. They'll have little blackened spots on them. Put the top on the blender and make a puree. Okay, so we've got this picadillo thing going, but that's just the beginning. In Mexico, tacos can be filled with all kinds of interesting surprises. Pickled pig's feet and stewed tripe. Okay, that's not the only thing that you're gonna find in tacos in Mexico. I'm here in Veracruz, in the downtown market. It's one of my very favorite places to eat in all of Mexico. In all of these little stalls around here, you can get not just the exotica, but over a dozen different fillings. So let's take a look at what those might be. Starting here with pork that's simmered with tomatoes, red chili, and the little green in there is the nopal cactus. It's got a lemony flavor. These are scrambled eggs with strips of jalapeno chili and tomato. This is tinga de pollo, or shredded chicken with the spicy, smoky chipotle chili. A wonderful, wonderful thick and chunky guacamole. And then, did you ever hear of mashed potato tacos? Well, these are great in this market because they've got strips of jalapeno in them. But once you've made your order, and they do actually give you these little tiny thin tortillas, 2 of them with your filling on the top, you get a variety of toppings. A lot of people around here like papa loquelite. It's like cilantro with the volume turned up. For salsas, you could try this little chipotle salsa here, smoky and spicy, a tomatillo salsa with jalapeno in it. You see a lot of jalapenos around here. It's pickled habaneros for those that are really after the dramatic effect, and of course a lot of lime to sprinkle over everything. But there's one thing in particular that people just love in this market. And that's right back there in that corner. You see those? Those are jalapenos rellenos. Little jalapenos that are filled with a shredded chicken or shredded pork, picadillo, and then battered and fried, and they make those into little tacos as well. Another thing that makes my mouth water here, about the only place that you can get it in this country, are the plátanos rellenos. It's a dough made from sweet plantain stuffed with either cheese or black beans and then fried into little croquettes. Señorita, por favor, me da un plátano relleno? No crispy U-shaped shell, no slivers of iceberg lettuce anywhere in sight. Guess it takes all kinds to make a taco. Wow. Okay, I think that the sauce is simmered long enough, very thick. Now just turn it off. We'll just leave it over here while we go on to the pork. Now the pork cooked about an hour and a half to get tender and let it cool in the broth, and now we're ready to turn it into picadillo. You know what picadillo means from the verb picar?
To chop.
To chop. That's exactly right, but we're not going to chop this. We're actually going to shred it. So why don't you put Mr. Pancho down, and we'll start shredding this meat. We just want to shred it into small little bits like that, and it'll make a beautiful filling.
Is that too big?
Oh, that's great. Okay, that shredded pork is going to go into a hot skillet that's filmed with a little bit of oil. Set around just a little bit. Sprinkle over the top a handful of chopped onions and let it cook for 4 or 5 minutes until it's nicely browned. That'll add great sweetness and depth. Okay, so it's beautifully browned now. And we're gonna mix in the spices, black pepper, cloves, and cinnamon. Lainey, those are what give it that sweet, beautiful flavor. Now I'm gonna ask you, Lainey, to take a whole handful of those raisins and put those in there. Beautiful. Scrape those almonds off the sheet for me there. Good. Now in goes the sauce we made.
Wow,
And you want to start stirring that?
Wow.
Okay. And a sprinkling of salt. Goes over the whole thing. And now I think we're about ready to taste it. Let me just get the last of that sauce stirred in there for you. This will take about 4 or 5 more minutes on the fire for it to thicken up to the right consistency, but I think we can give it a taste and see whether we think it's well seasoned or not. Now be careful, it's a little bit hot. What do you think? You like it? Well, picadillo Oaxaqueño is the specialty of, you probably guessed it, Oaxaca. It's that beautiful state in the southern highlands of Mexico, a place that my family and I think of as our second home. We come here for the food and for the friendships, and also for some of the most beautiful and out there folk art in all of Mexico. These serpent, dragon, dinosaur, Oaxacan monsters may look positively primordial. And in fact, wood carving does date way back here. But this particular tradition of carving and painting alebrijes is really just only a few decades old. The story starts back in the 60s with a certain Señor Jimenez who starts experimenting a little bit with copal. That's a kind of wood, a light wood that grows up in the dry mountains around here. He starts carving the gnarled branches, letting their normal sort of twists and turns suggest all kinds of fantastical figures. And pretty soon an American art expert discovers him, and then there's a worldwide demand for alebrijes. And of course, all the people in the local villages around here saw that, and they start going out and collecting their own copal and carving it into all kinds of things just to meet the demand, so that now these little space aliens and dragons can sometimes take weeks to carve, and I've seen some of the best of them go for thousands of dollars, which is really great for the economy around here. But there's just one bug in the whole system, and that is that copal wood is a favorite haunt of the powder post beetle. It can just chew the stuff into fine powder, and its eggs can lie dormant in the wood for years, which is a thing that the folks at the Rockefeller Folk Art Collection found out the hard way. You see, they had a whole crate of Senor Jimenez's wood carvings packed away for a few years, and when they opened it up, sure enough, nothing but powder there. But somehow, you know, I think that might just seem appropriate, that these otherworldly beings could just vanish into oblivion in the same mysterious way that they arrived. Pretty scary. Now, speaking of fiestas, a place like this is like one-stop shopping for party favors.
What is this?
She doesn't remember. You know those little bottles, look like champagne bottles they give us party favors sometimes, and you pull out the top and out comes all the streamers?
These are filled with confetti.
They are! Oh, look over there.
One, two, three. Yeah.
1, 2.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, what else do they have here? Those would be great to take.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that one. Now somebody's
Bow,
gonna
bow,
like
bow.
that. Ooh, yeah, scary, scary, scary. Oh, and the beautiful little cat. Okay, and tell me who that is?
This one from The Simpsons.
No? Okay. See if you can make noise with that. I think I could probably make some noise with this one. At least I'll try. Ooh, almost. I don't think I'm ready for the orchestra yet. What else do we have? These are really fun to play with. Now imagine this. You've been out fishing in those beautiful blue waters of the Caribbean off the Yucatan, and you drop anchor at a quiet beach. Your guide splits open your catch and slathers it with that beautiful, earthy tasting brick red marinade made from achiote. And he grills it on banana leaves over a wood fire in the style that they call Tikin-xic. Well, or you could just go to the grocery store and buy some super fresh fish and make a pretty close approximation yourself. But you gotta start with the achiote, and for that you're probably gonna have to go to a Mexican grocery store, at least in most parts of the United States. And they sell it in these big blocks. We use a lot of it, so we buy big blocks like this, but you can also get the smaller ones. And then to make it into a marinade, you wanna drizzle on some lime juice, and then just mash it into a paste. Now we'll just put that over our fish, drizzle it like that, and then just smear it all around. Okay, now we're going to put these away in the refrigerator for about half an hour. Well, you could leave them in there for 3 hours if you wanted. The classic accompaniment to go with our fish Tikin-xic is a classic tomato salsa. It's one that they call down there in the Yucatan schneepek. Now, you've heard of the hair of the dog that bit you? Well, this is the nose of the dog. At least that's what the scholars tell us, that in Mayan, that schnie means dog and pek means nose. And it's a dog with a pretty ferocious bite. That's because of these little habanero chilies that I chopped up to put in there. These are the hottest chilies known to man. Now, to tame that wild dog, what do you need? Well, most people would say you need a cold beer. But here's the theory. You know, the capsaicin in chilies, that's the hot stuff that's in there, well, it's not water soluble, so they tell us that the alcohol in the beer actually dissolves and disperses that capsaicin, and of course the beer, well, it's sort of, it numbs your tongue. Now, the bubbles in there are supposed to sort of add to that anesthetic effect of the beer. And of course, the iciness of the brew, well, that's supposed to calm down the increase in your body temperature that you always experience when you eat really hot food. Well, just try to tell your buddies that the next time they say, let's go have some beer with some spicy food. You know, I got a toast for you. Here's to the nose of the dog that bit you. But what are the kids and the teetotalers going to drink with their tacos? Well, the answer to that is simple: tea. But I'm not talking about just any tea. I'm talking about this. This is without a doubt one of the most popular teas in all of Mexico. It's called Jamaica, spelled just like Jamaica. But it didn't actually get there until the 18th century, but that's a whole different story. And it's not some rum punch either, though that's what its name implies to some people. No, this is a sort of tangy, almost cranberry flavored infusion that is actually made out of these, what some people call flowers of the rosella plant. Now, to round out our takisa menu, we're going to make one very simple final filling. It's an herbed ricotta with roasted peppers. Now, in Italian, ricotta means recooked, because it's the whey that's left over after cheese making that's brought to a boil, and that's where you get your ricotta. In Spanish, it's requesón, which means re-cheese, basically the same idea. But if you thought that ricotta was just for lasagna, well, one bite of these delicious tacos is going to have you rethinking ricotta. Now, you start off this filling by roasting some peppers and then chopping them up. Now, those chilies, in this case, these are roasted poblanos. They're roasted over an open fire and then covered with a kitchen towel for about 15 minutes to soften the skin, then cleaned out of all their seeds and skin, and then chopped up, and we're going to put that in with our ricotta. Now, to that we're also going to add a little chopped roasted garlic. This was done in a skillet in its little papery skins for about 15 minutes, and then after that point, when it's really soft, you can slip those papery skins right off. Now, the last part of this is the herby part. Now, my daughter likes to make this sometimes with roasted red peppers, the kind you can even buy in the jars. I like the poblanos because it adds a little bit more spiciness. But when it comes to herbs, we both sort of like the same things, though she likes them in smaller quantities than I do. I'm going to snip off a little of this cilantro, a little chive, and just a sprig or two of thyme. That's kind of a bolder flavor, if you will. And just chop those things up into small little bits, and then we'll add those to our creamy, herby ricotta. You might want to go a little light on this for the kids. Some of them don't like the stronger flavors of fresh herbs. Put in a sprinkling of salt, a grind or two of pepper, and mix it up. Your taco filling is all ready to go. Now we're finishing the preparations for the Tikin-xic, and I'm using that classic banana leaf grilling method. And you first, of course, have to get those banana leaves, but they're pretty readily available in Asian markets and Mexican markets. A lot of times you'll find them in packages like this in the frozen food counter. Sometimes you'll find them fresh. You want some that are quite pliable like this one is. If they feel stiff to you, run them over an open flame or put them in a steamer for 20 minutes so that they'll soften up. This one's pretty soft, so I didn't have to do that. Now, after putting some of the fish on there, get a good amount of the marinade with it. In fact, I'm going to reach over here and grab a little bit more to daub on the top of it so that it's really nicely flavored. Then fold this side over, this side, top down, bottom up, and then we're going to tie it using just some little ties that we've torn from the banana leaf itself. Tie it simply like that. This will hold in all the juices, and it'll make sure that that fish cooks absolutely perfectly. The leaf will give it a beautiful aroma, and then tie it the other way just to secure it. And then when the guests arrive, you can just pop these on a very hot grill and leave them without turning for about 10 minutes, and they'll be ready to serve. Hey, Lainey, bring those scissors over here so we can cut one of these packages open to make sure that they're done. Just go ahead and clip the two little ties. That's perfect. And then we'll open up the banana leaf, and let's test it for, ooh, doesn't that look just delicious?
Yeah.
See the little fish flaking? Ooh, yeah. Very nice. It's just tender all the way through, so these are absolute perfect. Now, all we need to go with these great tacos that we've made is tortillas. You want to pass me that basket? Now, of course, the best thing to do is to make your own tortillas, but not everybody has time for that. So you might want to go to a tortilla factory in your area where you can get really fresh ones, or to a grocery store that carries a local brand. If they've gotten cold, then you might want to wrap them in a damp towel and then put them in a steamer to warm up, or in a microwave oven, or if they're really fresh, just throw them right on the grill and heat them up one by one, and then pack them in a chiquihuite. That's what they call this kind of a tightly woven palm basket in Mexico, wrapped in a towel, and they'll be perfect. Hey guys, the tacos are all ready. Okay, now Jake, why don't you pass everybody a plate? Give one to Riley there, to my mom. Okay, now just dig in. Here, you guys get plates over there. Dig in. This is the pork over here and the black beans. Don't forget this taco filling here. Okay, and then I've got all the tortillas here. Now, Mom, you're going to want to taste these little fish packets here. Let me put one on your plate. There we go. Beautiful, Fabiola. You want one? Okay. It's very spicy, so watch it, okay? Did you get any of these tomatoes? Oh, you got to get a tomato. They're really good. Of course it's out of the garden. It'll go really good with that fish. Just put it right down there with that fish. That'll be good. Okay. Yeah, they're hot. Watch it. They're kind of hot there. Hey, Jake, give me your plate. I want to show you what my favorite taco is.
Hope it's good.
I hope it's good, too. You tell me what you think of it. A little bit of black beans, a little bit of pork picadillo. I don't think you're very convinced of that, but try it, because I think you're going to like it.
will.
Don't think he's convinced. Okay. Fabiola, tortillas. Oh, okay. It was. You know, I can't imagine a better way to spend a summer afternoon with friends and family. I mean, we made those great taco fillings. We put out some beans and rice and guacamole. We had some great beverages. I mean, what more could a person want?
What about a confetti egg?
Oh!